Star Wars The Clone Wars is undoubtedly one of the best animated shows ever made, and in serious contention for the title of Best Star Wars Medium of all time. It succeeded where for a lot of people the prequels failed, and that was making them emotionally invest in characters like Anakin, Obi-Wan and the clones. Due to its episodic format, it had a lot more time to enhance the narrative, to the point that I'd argue you can't fully experience the story depicted in the movies until you've watched the show. It wasn't just a one-off, unimportant and inconsequential nostalgic indulgence created for the sole purpose of being fan service. On the contrary, watching it is crucial for fully grasping the gravity of the Clone Wars and understanding the backstories of the characters, as well as their motivations. Any one episode of the Clone Wars brings more life to the world of Star Wars than the entire sequel trilogy could ever hope to. Show Revenge of the Sith to someone who's watched the show and then to someone who hasn't, and see who's going to be more heartbroken by the ending. If you're a Star Wars fan, watching Clone Wars can be an incredibly delightful and gratifying experience. But it can also prove a dreadful one, because everyone watching knows what is about to happen. The story ended 3 years before it even started. Every time an attempt to expose Darth Sidious's plan was thwarted was a gut punch to the viewer. Every triumph was overshadowed by the inevitability of what was coming. Star Wars The Clone Wars exemplifies the adage, enjoy the journey, not the destination. It excels at getting you invested in often overlooked background characters of the movies whose tragic ends you've already witnessed. Moreover, it employed the introduction of brand new characters as a narrative device to enrich the story and offset its inherent predictability. The show doesn't have a single main character, it doesn't lack overarching plot lines, but it largely consists of self-contained stories that can be enjoyed or understood on their own without extensive knowledge of previous episodes, with each one of them featuring different characters, especially during the early seasons. But if I had to single out one of these characters as the main protagonist, that would be Ahsoka Tano, by far the best addition to the Star Wars universe established by Clone Wars. We are introduced to her in the first 8 minutes of the story as she is literally being dropped off in the midst of ongoing events. For all intents and purposes, she is the viewer standing inside the story, representing their entry point to the Clone Wars narrative. In the beginning, Ahsoka was rough around the edges and kind of a nuisance, to the point that not even Anakin wanted to deal with her despite him being appointed her master. But as time went on, she started growing as a character and became an integral part of the narrative. She was featured in most multi-episode arcs, was the subject of Season 5's main storyline, and by Season 7 she had become the main focus of the show. By the end, she had matured from a brash, young Padawan to a wise and independent individual. At first, Anakin wasn't a fan of Ahsoka, but after a while, he saw something in her that no other Jedi could have. And that something was himself.
You're reckless, little one. You never would have made it as Obi-Wan's Padawan. But you might make it as mine.
The two of them shared a lot of similarities, both of them young, unpredictable, impulsive and rebellious, but at the same time determined, kind, and willing to sacrifice themselves for the good of others. Anakin was the only person that could have taught Ahsoka everything she needed. And so he did for the next few years, during which their bond transcended the one between teacher and student, with their friendship growing so strong they considered each other family.
Whoa, where did you learn to fight like that?
My older brother taught me.
The journey of the two culminated in Season 5. Ahsoka was framed and subsequently wrongfully accused for heinous crimes she did not commit. Throughout the years, we've seen so many characters speak of how broken and corrupt the Jedi Council was, but I believe that this right here was, if not the first, then certainly one of the biggest examples we've ever gotten on screen. The Jedi Order is supposed to be all about tradition, and is often portrayed as an institution that upholds values such as selflessness, empathy and compassion. And yet, not only did no one in the Order except for Anakin stand up for Ahsoka, or gave her the benefit of the doubt, but the moment their values went against the wishes of the Senate, they denied her the right to a fair Jedi trial. Instead, they expelled her from the Order so that she could be court-martialed and face a military tribunal. during which she was found guilty and would have been sentenced to receive capital punishment if it wasn't for Anakin coming in at the last second, having apprehended the real culprit, who ended up being Barry Sophie, one of Ahsoka's closest friends. After the trial, in an attempt to save face, the Jedi Council tried to spin Ahsoka's predicament as a learning experience, with Mace Windu specifically saying something in the effect of, "Actually, that was a good thing for you. You managed to persevere and gained the strength to become a better Jedi. You are most welcome. Also, congratulations, you can come back to the Order now." And Ahsoka was like, no, the Jedi Order was her family, her home, everything she had ever known. If they couldn't trust her, how could she trust herself? And on top of that, she found out in the worst way possible that her best friend wasn't who she thought she was and that she had done despicable things. Given the circumstances, leaving was the most sensible option, much to the dismay of Anakin. For the longest time, that was pretty much it for Ahsoka in the Clone Wars. After the end of Season 5, the show was cancelled because Disney. And when the portion of Season 6 that had been completed before the cancellation was made public a year later, Ahsoka wasn't featured in any of the episodes. The reason for Ahsoka's departure from the show was twofold. For one, she wasn't featured in Revenge of the Sith, because as we already established, she was introduced in Clone Wars. And as the events of the show neared closer and closer to the ones of the movie, she had to be written off. The second reason though is far more interesting. Remember how I said that Anakin was the only one who could see himself in Ahsoka? That's not entirely true. In the Clone Wars movie, it was somewhat inferred that Obi-Wan had something to do with Ahsoka being assigned to Anakin.
Don't worry, Anakin. Just teach her everything I taught you and she'll turn out fine.
You know, something makes me think this was your idea from the start.
Also, during the same movie, the fact that Anakin would have a hard time letting go of Ahsoka was foreshadowed by Yoda.
Let's just hope Anakin is ready for this responsibility.
Ready he is to teach an apprentice, to let go of his pupil. A greater challenge it will be. Master this, Skywalker must.
As Ahsoka became a bigger part of Anakin's life, she also became a potentially exploitable weakness. While the Jedi Council didn't side with her, the Senate didn't do her any favors either. Hypothetically speaking, if Palpatine wasn't who he actually was, and was indeed Anakin's friend as he pretended to be, I'm not saying that he would have given Ahsoka a free pass, but since she was someone that his supposed friend trusted, he would have, at the very least, looked a bit more into it before giving her the death penalty. A sentence, by the way, that in canon was never officially given to Barris. Ahsoka's predicament was the perfect opportunity for Darth Sidious to drive a wedge between Anakin and the rest of the Jedi. One he did not hesitate to exploit. Despite Ahsoka's exoneration, his plan worked. If she had stayed in the Order, and Anakin had completed training her, he would have been one step closer to becoming a member of the Council, and would have had one less reason to think the Jedi didn't trust him. I believe it's safe to assume that although Ahsoka left, the very thought that at least she was still alive was one of the things that kept Anakin going for as long as he did. If her death sentence had been carried out, maybe the events of Revenge of the Sith would have taken place much sooner. There's no doubt in my mind that Ahsoka's treatment by the Jedi Order was a crucial part in Anakin's downfall into eventually becoming Darth Vader. Ahsoka made her highly anticipated return in Season 7. Between trying to wrap up the story of Clone Wars, establish a connection with Rebels, and lay the foundation for the Bad Batch, the last season of the show had a lot going for it. But for the sake of this video, I'd like to focus on the brilliantly crafted 4-part series finale. And I say brilliant because instead of having it end just before Episode 3, the showrunners decided to have the finale take place at the same time as the movie, giving us an insight as to why these characters didn't appear during Revenge of the Sith. Ahsoka asks for the Republic's assistance in capturing Darth Maul, who's found to be hiding on Mandalore, where he has become the head of a criminal syndicate. It's the first time anyone has seen Ahsoka in months. And in these moments, where she reunites with her old allies, we see how much impact she had on everyone. Anakin is genuinely happy and excited to see her, and despite her not being a member of the Republic Army anymore, the clones still treat her with respect and admiration, saluting and addressing her as commander. She is presented with her very own company within the 501st Legion, whose members are in fact so honored to serve under Ahsoka, they painted their helmets as a tribute to her. And leading this company is no other than Captain Rex, whose history with Ahsoka could be an entire video on its own, as he's probably the second most important person in her journey. Not only have they fought together countless times, but he was the first person that didn't treat her as a child and gave her actual advice. The first time the two met, Ahsoka, being young and immature, half-jokingly asked him, "Since I'm a Jedi and you're a captain, don't I technically outrank you?" And he responded, "Well, the way I see it, experience outranks everything." And we come back full circle to this moment, when even though Ahsoka doesn't hold any rank, all these men are trusting her to lead them into one of the hardest battles of their lives. An alarm goes off and Obi-Wan rushes in to inform us that General Grievous has attacked Coruscant and has taken the Chancellor hostage, setting off the events of the movie. Before the two headed off to their respective missions, Anakin gave Ahsoka a gift, a box containing her old lightsabers, which Anakin has fitted with 2 blue kyber crystals. Ahsoka leaves to find Darth Maul, and Anakin leaves to save Palpatine. During the Siege of Mandalore, Ahsoka came face to face with Darth Maul, but instead of the two fighting, they just talked. Maul informed her about the galaxy's impending fate, offering her to join forces in order to stop his former master. At first, she was inclined to go with it, until he told her about Anakin's role as Darth Sidious's new apprentice. At that point, she realized that he was obviously lying to her, and she wouldn't betray her master the same way the Jedi betrayed her, based on just a word of a Sith Lord. A fight between the two ensued, leading to the eventual arrest of Darth Maul. It's nearly poetic how Anakin and Ahsoka are faced with the same temptation, the same moral dilemma almost simultaneously. Both of them looked into the darkness, but when the darkness looked back, Anakin blinked. Batman quotes aside, the story of Darth Vader is what happens when an individual gives in to the dark side in hopes of saving the ones they love. The story of Ahsoka Tano is what happens when individuals stay true to themselves, reject the temptations of the dark side, find strength in their own principles, and above all else, maintain hope. Unfortunately, the same hope that saved Ahsoka from going down her master's path was the same that prevented her from sharing Darth Sidious's intentions for Anakin with the rest of the Jedi. Believing that, hoping that Maul was wrong and Anakin would never be capable of anything other than serving the greater good. On the way back, Ahsoka and Rex have a heartfelt conversation about their friendship and share their feelings on the war and how it has impacted their lives. Rex is summoned to the next room to hear the latest briefing, and right there, as soon as Ahsoka says, "I'm sure it's more good news," it hits you. The moment that you had been dreading for the past 7 seasons, it's merely seconds away. On the other side of the galaxy in Coruscant, Anakin has just sealed Mace Windu's fate, joining the dark side and becoming Darth Vader. As Ahsoka sensed her master's descent, she went on to tell Rex, but he had already received his next assignment.
Execute Order 66.
Yes, Lord Sidious.
Rex trying to hold back his tears as he is shooting at Ahsoka is a very emotional scene. The only way it could have been more effective is if I hadn't already watched Rebels and didn't know that both of them had survived. But just to showcase how truly incredible this scene is, knowing the fate of the characters can also enhance the experience in a way, because instead of keeping you guessing about what's going to happen next, it allows you to sit back and appreciate what's happening in the moment. And that's pretty much the case for the entire show. If you're a fan of the franchise, Clone Wars is the perfect show for you to watch, because it gives you a lot of context and helps you better understand Star Wars. If you are new to the franchise and know nothing about it, Clone Wars is again the perfect show to watch because it's great at keeping you at the edge of your seat. Depending on your knowledge level, you're going to have a completely different but equally amazing experience. The tone of these last few episodes feels so disconnected from the rest of Clone Wars. The image of Ahsoka defending herself against the clones is very uncanny and strange, almost like it doesn't belong in the story and is better suited as the subject of a what-if storyline. That's not how I felt when I watched Revenge of the Sith for the first time. A common criticism I hear about the prequels is that it's very difficult to care about a war between clones and robots. And I do not disagree. In the movies, the clones were nobodies. They showed up at the end of episode 2, turned on the Jedi halfway through episode 3, and that was that. When Order 66 was issued in the show, it felt wrong. It felt like we, the viewers, were being betrayed alongside the Jedi. Ahsoka was fighting against Rex and Jesse, people she cared about. Obi-Wan and Yoda hacked and slashed their way through nameless CGI that barely got any screen time. It's one of the best examples of how the show picked up the slack for the movies and how it made us feel a connection with the characters. And this connection is what makes the final part of the ending all the more devastating. Ahsoka manages to cut off Rex from the rest of the clones and performs an operation to remove the inhibitor chip from his brain, allowing him to resist Order 66. Despite being cornered, with no chance of escaping, Ahsoka refuses to fight the clones. Rex doesn't want to do it either, but he feels it's the only way. They may be his brothers, but they're willing to give their lives to take them down. Ahsoka doesn't change her mind. These men are good soldiers, and they've been through so much together. They may be willing to give their lives, but she won't be the one taking them. In order to create a diversion for his own escape, Darth Maul destroyed the ship's generators, abruptly pulling it from hyperspace, causing it to crash on the moon below, leaving Ahsoka and Rex as the sole survivors. The second to last scene of the show takes place on the surface of the unidentified moon, and shows Rex walking back to the ship holding a shovel. The camera cuts to Ahsoka, standing in front of the graves of dozens of clone troopers. She leaves behind her lightsaber, and with that, officially closes that chapter of her life. Whenever I watch a TV show or play a video game, no matter how odd or pointless it may sound, I always enjoy trying to get myself into the character's shoes, and think about how I would feel if I ever found myself in their situation. Ahsoka was betrayed by both the Order and one of her best friends. She had to leave everything behind, and when she finally came back, she experienced another painful betrayal, forced to abandon everything once again. But this time, there was nothing left to go back to. Think of your best friends and your closest family members. Imagine one day waking up and for no apparent reason, everyone just wants to kill you. You have to not only find a way to survive, but also figure out how to emotionally move on. And the same goes for Captain Rex. When sharing his thoughts on the war, he recognized that, while many people wish it never happened, if it wasn't for that war, clones wouldn't exist. Rex was artificially created to be a disposable weapon. At one point, he was one of millions of others that served the same purpose. But now he's a clone that defied Order 66. As far as he knows, he is the only one of his kind, a sole survivor of an identity. And for the first time in his life, he is alone, lost, and without a mission. The very last scene of Clone Wars shows Anakin, now Darth Vader, arrive at the crash site an undisclosed amount of time later. The only clue as to how long it's been since Ahsoka was there is that the ground is completely covered in snow. It could be a year or even more than that. Vader walks up to the gravesite, picks up the lightsaber, ignites it, and realizes it's the one he gave to his former Padawan. As he looks up, we get a glimpse of his helmet, and through the red lenses, we can very faintly make out his eyes, the same eyes that had been front and center of so many shots in the past, forcing us to accept that Darth Vader is not just an evil alter ego. This is the same man we've been following for the past 7 seasons. He leaves, taking the lightsaber with him, and with that, the 12-year saga comes to an end. I think Ahsoka's blue lightsaber plays a very significant role. It's a combination of the original design plus Anakin's own crystal color. It serves as a visual representation of everything she learned from him and the impact he had on her life. By taking back the lightsaber, Anakin effectively took away the life he gave her. The orange clone helmet holds equal significance. It represents Ahsoka's good nature, a paragon of kindness, compassion, and perseverance, someone that everyone loved and respected. The last thing we see is a reflection of Darth Vader walking away on the helmet's lens, leaving behind just a shell, a deteriorated and broken reminder of who Ahsoka used to be.